viewers what bail is and why it is. It's in the Constitution, right? Or
yes, the Eighth Amendment provides for your liberty, your right to bail, essentially, right? So what happens is when you get arrested, I'll just use New York for an example. In the state of New York, when you get arrested, you have to be seen by a judge within 24 hours, no matter what. If you're in a hospital, you'll get arraigned at your bedside. And a judge will see you, a prosecutor will say you're the worst person in the world. The defense attorney will say you're the best person in the world. And then the judge will render a decision whether to hold you or, set you free. And basically now in the state of New York, post the enactment of bail reform, the judges must set a third form of bail, which is essentially what we refer to as sign and drive, where your gang member can sign you out of jail and you essentially just have to pay a certain percentage to the court. Back in the day, the judges had something called judicial discretion. And they were allowed, just like they're allowed to make custody decisions for our children, civil decisions and civil litigation, they were allowed to make custody decisions, and the legislature had not usurped their judicial power. They did when they did bail reform, when Don Cuomo, who coincidentally now wants to be the mayor of our once great city, he just signed bail reform and put it right into the belly of the budget and told all those Democrats that they better just sign it and say yes, or their political careers were over. And that's essentially what they did. And what happened is post bail reform, I believe it was 6,800 humans that were released out of New York state jails right into the streets. And a lot of those people are emotionally disturbed people that were incarcerated, that were getting their meds at 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and getting their antipsychotics and getting their meals and their services and things like that. And they became homeless. And a lot of them became recidivist offenders, lo and behold.
So when we were working together trying to stop, the bail reform in New York, the one thing that we both recognized was the average person didn't understand why the left was saying, oh, these people are too poor to get out of jail, and it's not fair to them because only the rich people can bail out and all that stuff. And you taught me about that wasn't so, and that some of those people were in jail because their family didn't want them out. Right? They were afraid. So talk about that. Talk about the left's, propaganda that actually got people to support bail reform.
Well, basically, it's a set of branded talking points, and they're still using them. They're saying that if these poor people, go to jail, they're going to lose their jobs and they're going to lose custody of their children, and they simply can't afford bail. And that's why there should be no money when it comes to the ascertaining of bail. So basically, it's just a branded set of leftist talking points. And the fact of the matter is they don't steal crusts of bread. They don't. They go to Louis Vuitton. Everybody wears white sweats and white hoodies, and everybody goes in and steals tons and tons of shit and leaves. And what happens is these big corporations like CVS, Louis Vuitton, they're losing countless gazillions of dollars, and they can't have their security guards, go after them. Nobody gets arrested for these kinds of crimes. And what happens is the debilitation of society. We certainly didn't have that kind of thing growing up. No. When we grew up, if you took candy from Danzas or from the local Superette or whatever, you got smacked, your mother got called, your father you got in trouble. Right. You really got in trouble. There's no such thing as getting in trouble anymore.
Right. And they know it too. So now, I mean, like California had the under $99 or under $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000.
And so, I mean, criminals, it's a business. People think of criminals just as junkies and druggies and whatever, but it's a real business. I mean, they set it up like a business, and they get away with it. And bail reform played, in my opinion, right into the hands of the criminal cartels.
Right,
This is where that poor girl got stabbed. The killer's family wanted him in jail. Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I want to just tee this up, Michelle, for a minute by showing this 2-minute clip about recent activity from people that were out without bail. Okay.
This is Daniel Nations, and he was arrested yesterday after police say he hit a man with his car following a road rage incident. That happened on Union near Palmer Park, and that's where 11 News reporter Aaron Vidito is live from right now. You've been reading through Nations' court records, Aaron, and he has a long criminal history.
In 2017, Nations was arrested, accused of threatening bikers with a hatchet near Mount Herman Road, a crime he would later plead guilty to. Besides that, Nations has a history of pleading or being found guilty of possession of a weapon by a previous offender, false reporting, and violating a protection order.
Mike Jock, and he's busted. A Miami neighborhood was on edge after they say a man was peering through their windows. Turns out he has a long criminal history back in 2023. Local 10 told you the story of a 31-year-old woman. She accused him of violently kidnapping, then raping her and leaving her badly injured. He was initially charged with 4 felony counts, including sexual battery. However, he didn't spend much time in jail. The case was closed. Why is unknown. And there's more. He was a fugitive out of Broward County on an indecent exposure charge.
According to MPD, Carlos Bogan and James were in an argument when police say James shot Bogan. James was arrested on scene and charged with murder. According to court records, James has a lengthy arrest record. The most recent charges were in 2023. The Mobile County District Attorney's Office says James was charged with shooting someone. That case was dismissed because the victim did not show up to court. In another case, James pleaded guilty to drug charges and was sentenced to probation. But during that probation, the district attorney's office tells me James tossed a bag of drugs tied to a rope into a Metro jail cell. His probation was revoked for 90 days, but then he was released again. Just 3 weeks ago, the bail bondsman James used for that drug charge asked for James to be arrested because he failed to pay his bail. That warrant was not executed.
Details of the story are all too horrific, but the NYPD this morning is giving out a serious warning. That is 42-year-old Jamel McGriff, the ex-con accused of killing and then torching the home of an elderly couple here in Queens, is armed and dangerous. The police commissioner says he has a criminal record that spans 30 years.
I'm just like, does it ever
only the last couple of months? And that was only 4 because I didn't want to make the clip too long. So this is what's happening. I mean, they don't have bail, right? Except for that one that did have bail, and he didn't pay his bail, and they didn't execute the warrant. And even you were talking before the show, and you were saying that the police officers in Pennsylvania that were just killed were executing a warrant, which is what you do, right?
It's definitely part of what our tribe does. And, I often will say that, we are collecting the warranted while America sleeps. Yeah. So bail and fugitive recovery agents are a crucial part and the successful part, actually, of the criminal justice system. Yeah. So while America is sleeping comfortably in their beds, we are hunting the warranted. We believe in the high order of the court. We believe in bringing back a fugitive, whether that bond is $1,000 or $100,000. We're going to go out and find you because we believe in the criminal justice system. We believe in doing the right thing. Yeah. Bail agents are veterans, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. They're your neighbors, right? But we have a really difficult job, but we do it really well. And it's very dangerous. And it's more and more dangerous because these criminal offenders, as you can see, have zero respect for law enforcement.
So, the whole thing, and the thing that you taught me is that the people can't bail themselves out or couldn't bail themselves out, right? Somebody else had to post the bonds for them. But now what is it different now? I mean, how is it working now?
It really kind of changes out jurisdictionally, right? In New York, it's not allowed. You have to have someone come and sign for you and indemnify you and whether you're, using a secured bond or whether you're paying cash bail directly to the court, you can't do it. You're on Rikers Island.
Okay.
So somebody else has to do that for you. There are certain states and municipalities throughout the nation that do allow offenders to sign themselves out of jail. And it's abhorrent.
Yeah.
It happens.
So just tell our audience, just, before we go to the Decarlos Brown Jr. case, just tell our audience, maybe without gruesome details, what is the worst that you have seen happen with this new bail reform? Who other than what we see in Charlotte? I mean, something closer to home in New York, maybe. What can you tell us about the recidivism or how crime has gone up by these people being on the street?
Well, I mean, I have so many specific cases that run through my mind, but I mean, I have to say that, people think that crime only happens in New York City, but it's not true. It happens all over the state of New York, but there is one crime that comes to my mind. She's on our board now on my victims' rights group, which is the Victims' Rights Reform Council. Her name is Jasmine Robles, and she's a wonderful young lady, and she's a mom. And she was on the train minding her own business, and there was an offender, an emotionally disturbed person on the train, and she was sitting there, and she knew that this person was about to start trouble. And the person was going from person to person. And she said to me, Michelle, I was just hoping that she wasn't going to come to me. And all of a sudden, I looked down at my feet and she was there. She beat her up so bad. She took out her teeth and, her head was sliced open. She had to go for stitches. She had to go for innumerable surgeries. And the district attorney in New York County, which is Alvin Bragg, which is the same animal that prosecuted our president, kind of just let the person go. And I believe it was a short time later that offender murdered the next victim. But Jasmine will never be the same. She told her story for the first time in public. We had a bail reform symposium in Albany last February. We had all branches of unions of law enforcement there. And she told her story, and it was just harrowing. And it's just something that stays with me as a New Yorker, as a kid that grew up taking the L train, as a mom. My younger daughter still takes the train. I find it terrifying.
Yeah. I think, the Vera Institute, right? They were the ones that were behind it in New York, that they pumped tons of money and they had tons of propaganda out on the street. I mean, what are they saying anything about the fact that crime is rising? Or are they hiding behind these false reports that crime is decreasing, violent crime is decreasing?
No, as a matter of fact, I read one of their nifty little reports this morning, and as it pertains to Hawaii, of all places, okay? And you would think that Hawaii, aloha, it's beautiful there. They don't have the crime that we have. Well, that's a crock, because yes, they do. And the Vera Institute, Soros and Company, the John Arnold Foundation, all of these entities that are funded in the, gazillions, are promoting bail reform in places you would never even imagine.
So they're still using the same old tricks, and they're still pulling on the heartstrings of Americans. So what could you tell our viewers? What would be the talking points that you would give our viewers so that they can combat some of this BS that, poor people are languishing in jail for no reason because, they don't have the money or any, how do you counter the Vera Institute's propaganda? Arm them with some information.
I mean, I'm not sure that you can counter their narrative, because they are so well organized. They're like a well-oiled machine. What I would say to your viewers is contact, email, call, get involved with, show up at their events, your federal and state leaders, your senators, your representatives. Get to know who they are. Even your county commissioners are really looking to one day be your state senators, right? Get
Right.
involved with them, show them that you know and that you're interested in, that you don't want this bail reform in your community. And if you want to know more, just look us up at the National Association of Bail Agents. I'll come and speak to them. I'll get on a call. I do this all day long. I just got off a congressional call right before this interview. I'm all about it, so, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us as voters to know who we're voting for. Ask, are you one of those bail reform supporters? Because there are some rhino Republicans that are bail reform. Yeah, there are. So make sure that they're not on the bail reform train. And if they are, please don't vote for them. Vote for the other guy.
Do you think there's anything that could be done to repeal it?
Well, I think that President Donald Trump is a New Yorker. He's a smart kid from Queens. I'm a kid from Brooklyn. And I think what he said the other day, even though he refers to it as cashless bail, like I always say, if he called it a green shoe, I'd call it a green shoe. I don't really care. You know what I mean? Yep. So he pointed out, he's calling it cashless bail policies. We're going along with what he said. What people don't know is that there is a ton of federal money that goes to the states that is supposed to be used, for example, for police officers, for their vests, for better vehicles, for programs. And what they're doing is they're taking this money and they're creating these huge bureaucracies called pretrial release entities, right? They have all different nifty kind of names. In some parts of the United States, it's called community corrections. So they're using federal grant money to release criminal offenders. And these individuals have great salaries, but they have no power of arrest. They're not monitoring these individuals in society.
Right.
So we are encouraging the administration to shut off the federal funding, and that should help quite a bit.